I still do.
Raise up from time to time.
So there's still room for stuff in there.
Tiny little thing though.
The only thing I don't have packed from you. I'm trying to find room. I think we have it yet.
It's kind of funny because I told my mom when I was really little that someday I would be covered in tattoos, and she just kind of laughed it off. And I was like, "No, I'm serious. I'm gonna be covered someday." And she was like, "When you get older, you won't want them." And here we are today.
The first tattoo I would say I got about 15. It was a very rash decision, and I got it done to my friends in high school. And then the last tattoo I probably got for my 18th birthday.
I have considered getting them. I'm just not sure what I want yet, so I want to wait until something comes to me that I actually want to put on my body forever.
So a bit of an interesting story. My background, actually, I basically grew up in a tattoo studio. When I was in high school, my stepmother and my dad kind of changed careers. They were always into body modifications, tattoos, body piercings, that sort of thing. So they opened their own body piercing and tattoo studio in Ithaca, New York when I was 15. But prior to that, they had been involved in the industry. So from the time I was probably 12 or 13, I grew up in tattoo studios around people getting tattooed, people on different body modifications. So it was always something that was really interesting to me. So it seemed perfectly natural for me to start getting those when I came of age.
The one on my finger was the first one because I figured I'd get something small and away from the main artery, so that was my first choice.
What does it say?
It says LOUD, which stands for Live Out Your Dreams.
Oh, I like that. And then the chest came next?
Chest came next. Chest is a quote, says life goes on, which is from the title of a poem I really like. And then the third one was on my stomach, which is my zodiac sign. It's just a crab and it's red for Cancer.
It was like 2 weeks after my 18th birthday.
Really? And then which one's your most recent one? However long?
My right leg here, this part of it was the most recent one, and that was like 3 years ago. I don't really get home to get them done very often, so.
You only go to this one specific guy?
I go to the same guy every time, pretty much.
Because you trust him?
Yeah.
I have several tattoos. I have a more elaborate design across my shoulder blades on my upper back. I have a small butterfly on the lower part of my back, and I have 2 half sleeves, both on my right and left arm. On my left arm, it's a black and gray swirling of nautical stars, and on my right arm it is a kind of a classic tattoo swallow bird design with some nautical stars as well.
Isn't it your theme is kind of horror movies, or is that just some of them?
That's just some of them, and then movies in general, and then some of them were just kind of random designs that my artist came up with, and I became buddies with him over the years, so he kind of went with it from there.
When I was 18, I started working at the family business as well, answering phones, running the counter, the cash register, greeting customers, doing paperwork, that sort of thing. But then really being in that environment on a full-time basis, it's so easy to find yourself in the tattoo chair, on a free afternoon and getting some work done.
So why did you stop?
I wouldn't necessarily say I stopped. I would say Most of my tattoos are inspirational. Like I get them when there's something I definitely want to memorialize or remember. So I kind of just moved away from getting additional tattoos.
One of the options for pet owners is to bring their pets here where they can lounge on these couches in front of the fireplace and just enjoy some TV.
Absolutely not. I make every effort to make sure none of my tattoos show on camera. I do have one that's right here, so I don't wear any low-cut tops like today. And if I do, I'm continuously pulling them up, making sure my tattoo's not visible. The one time my tattoo was visible, which happened a couple weeks ago on air because it was really windy and it blew my shirt open. I had them put the lower third up for an extended period of time so that nobody could see it and that it wasn't as noticeable. So I try hard not to have my tattoo show.
But this pool isn't filled with water. It's filled with all these plastic balls. And no matter how old you are, who doesn't love jumping in a giant ball pit? I can't think of specifically people who are on air who have them, but I know that there have been conversations about tattoos before, like, oh, what tattoos do you have? And it's just a really normal, casual conversation. Like, everybody has them. And I mean, even like some people who do have them, they might not be visible, but people have them. It's not like a shocking kind of thing. So I feel like even if there were people on air who have them, it wouldn't really faze me unless it was like something crazy that was like taking away from the story or something. But I mean, normal tattoos, it's pretty normal, I think.
And that's where we're going to find WENY's Renata Steele. Hey, Renata.
I started here as an intern, and I eventually got hired as a producer. Eventually made my way on camera as doing some reporting and then later anchoring, and I've been an anchor here since 2007.
It's time to see what's coming up on WENY News at 11, and Aisha McKenzie joins us now with a look ahead.
Fortunately, it hasn't impacted my career negatively in any way, as I have found ways to work around my tattoos that I have. Most viewers don't know that I have them. I dress very conservatively when I'm on air. I look like your typical television anchor.
Here near Seneca Lake. In an exclusive interview with WENY, the company outlines the proposal, reacts to the community's response, and tells us why the project's now almost a decade in the works.
It absolutely did make me nervous because we do, I work in an area where it's a little bit more conservative. Our demographic of viewers is a little bit older, and I didn't want them to have one perception of me as a news anchor that they watch and trust, and have that be eroded in any way by having that perception changed and seeing someone with tattoos and having them think that that undermined my credibility in any way.
I think part of the stigmatization of tattoos is that lack of trust, that viewers do find that if you have tattoos, you might be more free-spirited, you might be less professional, less strict. So I think it does necessarily correlate with trustworthiness, but there is no scientific correlations between trustworthy and having tattoos. So I think perception-wise, yes, that's still there as far as less trustworthy people who have visible tattoos, but me personally, I don't make that correlation.
I mean, I don't think your appearance should have anything to do with your ability to do the job at all, but sadly, that's kind of where we live in. And I guess if I look at it from like the company's standpoint, I can understand why they wouldn't want somebody to walk into, say, like Common Council or court and be completely covered in noticeable, visible tattoos, no matter what they stand for. I mean, I think even me loving tattoos, I think that's a certain look that is specific to, you know, certain jobs. So.
Yeah, I think there's like a certain stigma associated with it, and not as much anymore as there used to be, but when you think about a lot of the audience that's watching the news, that might still be people who have that idea, and you do want to seem professional and maintain your reputation and have people take you seriously reporting the news, but at the same time, in my opinion, that shouldn't take away from it. It's just something that you do think about because that's how some people think, so.
I think you just don't see it as much. I think there are probably a huge amount of television journalists that have tattoos, but maybe they take the same kind of stance as me, and like Kayla mentioned, they don't want that to be something that colors anyone's view of you in any way. Take Carson Daly, for example. He's on the Today Show, but for many, many years, he was on MTV, and he is covered in tattoos, both arms fully covered down to his wrists. But if you only know him from Carson Daly on the Today Show, you see someone who's buttoned up shirt, suit, and tie every day, and you would never know that that's something that he has.
Hello and welcome to Thunder at the Glen, live at Watkins Glen International in Watkins Glen, New York. We want to thank you for joining us this evening from all across the Twin Tiers, and a special thank you to our viewers from Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm Renata Steele.
Have you ever had a negative experience? Really? You do that to yourself?
Yes, I have had that. I actually had a person come up to me when it was a summer day and I was at the grocery store, and they walked up to me and they said, "Stop." And they walked around me and they said, "Oh, I would never do anything like that." And I was just kind of left speechless. One, that you would do that to somebody or say something like that to somebody and think that that's an acceptable thing to say. But I think in television journalists especially, we open ourselves up to a lot more criticism than a lot of other professions just by nature of what we do. We're on TV, people think they get to know you, that you're in their living rooms every night. But I look at it from the sense that I would never walk up to anybody and criticize openly to their face how they look or what they think of the job that they're doing. But with TV journalists, and especially in the days of the internet and social media right now, people just feel like that's something that they can do, and that's okay.
We're in Kansas City, Missouri at Crestwood's offices. We're talking with company officials about the proposed LPG project. They tell us it's safe and beneficial for the community.
It was a popular day to be at the beach today, but even more crowded than just being out here was being in the water. Even those who normally find the water too cold found themselves needing some relief after laying out in that sun for too long. They just needed to cool off.
Summer vacations filled with excitement, but you may have to make some room for those high airfare prices. The recent grounding of the 737 MAX airplanes have led to less flights to go around. The decrease in flight availability may lead to an increase in summer airfare prices.
I am finding that to be more common, more people having those visible tattoos. And it's because the longer I'm here, I'm hiring journalists that are just like you. They're growing up where that's the norm and that's the accepted, and nobody really second guesses it. So they're starting their professional careers with a different lens than I certainly did 15 years ago.
I think it does. I definitely think that our generation, from what I've seen, doesn't really think the same way, and a lot of people who do think that way are maybe worried about what the older generation is thinking. I think our generation is more accepting of it, from what I've seen at least.
I would say that the older generation does have their viewpoints of tattoos and do stigmatize it more than the younger generation. Obviously, people my age, I'm young, I'm in my 20s, we're open-minded, we have more perceptions of the world and are more open to change. But the older generation, they want their news to look a certain way, and they want the people on their newscast to be credible and to be able to have that professional image. So I think the older generation definitely still has that stigma, and it is changing as far as with the younger people.
I do think the narrative will change. I think as that younger generation becomes who's grown up, seeing people with all sorts of different body modifications and is maybe more accepting of it right out of the gate, they're going to become those main primary TV consumers who are the ones that aren't going to bat an eye at that sort of thing. So I think you may see a bit of a shift in the next 10, 15, 20 years where you may find more people in broadcast journalism with more tattoos that are more visible on a day-to-day basis, and you're not even going to bat an eye at it because it's going to be so normal and accepted. I don't think we're at that place just yet.
All right, well, Carol, thank you so much. The museum looks absolutely stunning. And again, admission is free. You really need to come out here and check this out for yourself. And we also want to take a minute to remind our viewers that tonight, Corning Museum of Glass and WENY special presentation, New Space, New Light, exploring the contemporary art and design wing at the Corning Museum of Glass, airing at 7:30 p.m. right here on WENY ABC. So Carol, thank you very much and congratulations and have a wonderful weekend. And Jennifer, Renata Steele reporting live from WENY at the Corning Museum of Glass. Going to send it back to you.
In opening statements, both sides said this case is about identification and reliability of DNA evidence. They both started laying out the events of what happened that day on August 12, 2003, and asked the jury to keep an open mind when looking at the evidence.
That's right, Maureen. I'm here on Sweden Rocker Road, and the speed limit along this road is 55 miles per hour. And you can see behind me, the shoulders are very narrow, not much room. Now, according to Monroe Sheriff's County's deputies, the statement that they released said Carolyn Ray was riding her bicycle southbound along this road yesterday around 12:30 p.m. when she was hit by a pickup truck. Her and the truck were headed into the same direction. Now, according to police reports, the pickup truck driver was a male, and they did test him for drugs and alcohol at the scene. At this time, they do not believe either drugs or alcohol were involved. The investigation is still ongoing. I will toss it back to you in the studio. Maureen?
No, just if you get a tattoo, make sure it's something you like and that you're not going to regret later.
Just be careful. Really think them through. I mean, I know I got mine quickly, but I didn't get noticeable, like visible tattoos for quite a while. I really waited, and I was as anxious as I was to get them all done. I mean, I still want like everything pretty much done, and you know, I still to this day hold off because of jobs. You know, my big thing is like I want to get my hands done and like the neck and everything, but I won't until I'm well into a career, and maybe by then, like a lot of people said, I won't even want them at that point. So who knows?
I would definitely not discourage a young person from getting a tattoo if that's something that they want to, how they want to express themselves, whether it could be something really sentimental and significant and personal, or just something really beautiful that they want to put on their body. I would never discourage them from doing that. But I do recommend that they take a look at how it could impact the career path that they want to go on. Is it something that if they are required to, and every newsroom is different, you may be absolutely required to cover that up. Is it possible to cover up? What sort of barriers could that present to you from being successful in your career? And just being mindful about what your career goals are versus who you are as a person. Are they congruent, or is it something that could complicate things? And then you need to make a decision for yourself. What's going to work best for you?
Temperatures exceed 85 degrees. Look for a place like this just to cool down and beat the heat this summer. John?
I'm going to go ahead and say it. Atiya's got the coolest job in Rochester. You got me beat there, Atiya. Great job.
Kayla Green reports.
Someone was walking home from Jimmy Z's around 3 a.m. on Sunday morning when a car pulled up on them. Now, they didn't want their money. They didn't want to steal their car. They wanted to take their garbage plates, and they did.
And, you know, at the end of the day, it is all, you know, for all of you. Thank you, everyone in the Twin Tiers, for tuning in every night. This is my home. This is home. So thank you so much for all of your support. And we got to go. So have a good night, everyone. Thank you.